I think it's important for the federal government to have a floor for the minimum wage. Minimum wage is an incredibly important protection for workers all across the country. But I do think that states should have the ability to enhance and increase that wage level based on the state legislature assessments of the needs of the state.
Well, I think the federal needs to have a floor, basically. I think that's good. I mean, there's a number of states like Tennessee that uses that, and we don't have our own in Tennessee. But I also think that states are so different. You know, I was looking at a cost of living comparison of the states, and Hawaii is almost 2 times the cost of living of what it is in Tennessee. And so it really makes no sense. They need a higher minimum wage because they've got to be able to afford, you know, a livable wage, basically.
About the amount of pay that goes with the unit of an hour of a person's time, regardless of industry, regardless of whether the person has a disability. And we know that all people have basic needs: housing, groceries, utilities. So we should really be looking at what does it take for a person to be able to meet their basic needs, and the minimum wage should cover at least that.
Well, I think, as I said, cost of living. I think your urban versus rural, your population centers. I think your economy, you know, your tax rate. I mean, we do not have a state income tax in Tennessee. We're one of the lowest tax states in the country. State taxes, you know, your sales tax doesn't take up that much of your income that's coming in. So I think you take a lot of that into consideration.
I think it's a good discussion to have without some sort of a regular kind of a trigger to increase. What you'll see is that your minimum wage will stay stagnant for a long period of time. Here in Oregon, we have been slowly increasing the minimum wage over time, and we tie that to the consumer price index. So every year around the end of June, the beginning of July, we find out what that increased cost will be. That's automatically built in, so we don't have to vote on it. Businesses are also able to plan for that. So yes, the minimum wage needs to keep up with the cost of the growth of inflation and the needs of the people that it serves.
You know, I can make the arguments both ways because I get it. You know, your spending power is getting less because things are costing a whole lot more. So what you used to spend $1 for, you know, you're having to spend $2 for, whether it's groceries or gas and things that have gone up. You know, we've got to federally, they've got to do a better job at helping contain the inflation and get it back under reasonable control, because lately it's been ridiculous.
Well, again, I think the question about the minimum wage is what is the impact on the workforce and the people doing the work. For a person, their time, or that basic value of their time, isn't any different if they're at a McDonald's or at a law firm. That basic minimum wage is the value of that person's time, which is associated with the ability for a person to meet their basic needs.
On the positive side, you know, it gives people a, you know, better wage with more spendable money. Hopefully they've got more spendable money. They'll invest it back in the economy. So there'll be kind of that return on the investment. You have, you know, hopefully it helps with morale and staff retention. On the negative side, it's a lot of, especially the smaller companies can absorb it. The large companies really can absorb it. And they, you know, but oftentimes you see increased prices, whether it's on the large corporations or the small businesses, to make it do.
If minimum wage is not adequate for people to meet their needs, housing, utilities, food, childcare, people get into a place where they can't afford to enter the workforce at all. If we do not adequately pay people, if people cannot afford to work, we will have a much harder time attracting people into the workforce. So absolutely. And I think we have to remember that in everything that we do, workers are at the core of everything. All of us are are the workers. And when people work, they need to be able to afford their housing, their utilities, their groceries, their childcare, medical care, basic needs.
I mean, as we've said, the labor market, the number of people working and things, I think is dependent upon businesses being able to, you've got to make a return on your investments. If you don't run in the positive, other than maybe the first couple of years you start a business, you're not going to stay in business. Then you don't employ anybody.
I mean, the federal minimum wage right now is $7.25 an hour. I don't know anyone in any state that could survive working $7.25 an hour for 40 hours a week. The price of rent has gone up 21% since 2009, which is the last time that the federal minimum wage was increased. There is no way $7.25 an hour established in 2009 can support workers to meet their housing costs.
I just think that maybe the floor could be just a little bit higher and not cause the drastic harm that some of it would in certain areas of our country. But do I think that's going to happen in Washington? When you've got a split Congress like we do, I don't see something as controversial as that. I know obviously the National Federation of Independent Businesses that represent all the small businesses very much against raising the minimum wage, but because there really are a free market approach, but they represent the smallest companies that really would have the most difficult in the mandates and that come with it.